Hi, I'm Phil Ashey from the American Anglican Council with your weekly Anglican Perspective. We're in a series called Questions for Global Anglicans in the 21st Century. We're looking at the historic Cairo Covenant, Section 3, the conciliar structures, and we're looking at the assembly. And of course, we've said that synodal governance, that is the highest governing authority, if you will, within the body, is a permanent, regular, and necessary feature of the church. And we said it's regular. The assembly meets every 3 to 4 years, but then how does this kind of governance get carried on in between those once every 3 to 4 year meetings? Well, the answer is in virtually every diocese, between annual meetings of its synod, between the annual or biannual or triannual meetings of a national church synod, there's something called a standing committee of the synod. Some people just call it the standing committee, some call it executive committee, some call it the executive board. But what it does is it carries on in all these different Anglican churches the work of that synod between its sessions, between its meetings. It has delegated power, and it has designated powers that are spelled out usually in the constitution of the diocese or the national church. Well, we're taking that and applying that to this global level of governance and saying that, yes, between the once every 3 to 4 year meetings or more of the Global South Assembly, there is a standing committee. We call it the board. And here's what it says. If you look at paragraph 3.3 and section 3.3.1, the board of the assembly. There shall be a board of the assembly of the Global South Anglican Fellowship. The board consisting of, and then it describes bishops and clergy and laity, primates too, that are all part of this board representing the whole Global South Synod. And the composition of the board will reflect the geographical spread of the Global South. So again, representative by office, representative by location. The board shall carry on the work of the assembly between its sessions, and it shall have broad administrative authority and delegated discretion to carry on the work of the assembly. It shall meet once annually, at least, and always in conjunction with the annual meeting of the Primates' Council. So again, we have this wonderful conciliar way of meeting. It's the assembly represented by the board meeting with the Primates' Council. And if you look at paragraph 3.3.3, functions of the board, we have a long list of delegated and specific duties that describe what this board does. Things like acting for the assembly between sessions, implementing its decisions, establishing subcommittees to expedite the work, considering all applications for membership, proposing the budget, managing the budget, the trusts, the money, etc., etc. Everything we'd expect a standing committee to do. Now, how is this different than the current standing committee of the Anglican Communion? Well, again, remember the closest thing to this Global South Assembly that's currently in place in the Anglican Communion structures is the Anglican Consultative Council. And there is a standing committee of that Anglican Consultative Council. It's registered under UK charity law. But again, the Anglican Consultative Council does not have the legislative authority that this Global South Assembly has as the comprehensive voice of the entire Global South Assembly. There's a great historian named Paul Valliere who wrote a great book called The History of Conciliarism, and he looked at the existing structures of the Anglican Communion, and he made this very trenchant observation. He said, you know, in the 1870s, when the need for the Anglican Communion spreading as it was to the different British colonies and the empire. When the need for conciliar governance came up, the Archbishop of Canterbury refused to call a council. He called instead a conference of bishops to meet and consult with each other. Eventually, out of that conference of bishops came an Anglican consultative council. And after that, the primates meeting, which is consultative. And now we have a standing committee of the Anglican Consultative Council under UK charity law. And as Paul Valliere says, this is the exact opposite of conciliar governance. It's going in the exact opposite direction, from a council to a conference of bishops, from a conference of bishops to consultative instruments, and from consultative instruments to a committee, in ever diminishing circles that are less and less representative of the whole communion. And what makes matters worse is that under UK charity law, the Archbishop of Canterbury must always be on the standing committee of the Anglican Consultative Council, which means that if there's ever any disciplinary action to be taken against the Church of England, it can never really be significant, because you can never remove the Archbishop of Canterbury himself. Not so with the board of the Global South Assembly.